let's start off. Let's get right here. I want to talk about origins. I want to talk about early lessons. And Nick, I want to start with you. You started studying food and climate before content, but what made you realize that maybe this whole creation thing had a career in it?
Well, back when I was in college, I remember going through, they had 49 majors, concentrations, whatever you call it, to pick from. And I went through that list over and over and over again. I remember sitting there, I put the whole list in a notes or Word document, and I would just delete them until I was left with maybe one or two that I kind of liked, but then I still sort of felt like I didn't like those. So that's when I sort of thought about it, and I stepped back, and every night I was going to work at a restaurant up the road from my school, from my dorm room, and I just realized that's what I loved most.
Oh, nice. What was the restaurant?
It was a seafood restaurant. I've worked in a couple over the years, but that was a seafood place, and a lot of fun. I learned a lot, but there were some stressful nights where it got a little intense.
I've worked at restaurants. They're very stressful. They can be very stressful. Max, what about you? You started in your backyard. What was that one time where you said, "Oh my God, I'm making videos. I'm in my backyard. I'm making meat. This could be a business."
We're making meat. First of all, it's very good to be here. Thank you to everybody who put this on. It's great to be back in Asia. I actually spent 6 or 7 years in Shanghai, so it's good to be back.
Why don't you give us one, just so we believe you, give us one quick sentence or something like that.
Nick, you're really putting me on the spot here. We got some bright lights. 我会说一点点吧，但是我的中文真的不太好，真的不好。
I have no idea what he said.
Not much.
He made fun of you.
It's totally fine. Everyone does.
No, yeah, so my origin story is a little bit kind of backwards when it comes to content. Originally, it started with a spark of wanting to start a beef jerky company in Asia, actually. So American-style jerky for the Chinese market. COVID happened, kind of mixed things up. I came back to America. I was like, there is no possible way I could start a jerky company in America. Everyone's like, the margins are terrible. It's super competitive. To be fair, they are right. So I sort of lost that dream, but that was right when TikTok started kind of popping off, right after COVID. I gave myself 30 days. I'm like, if I hit 10,000 followers on TikTok, I'll keep going. If not, I'll try something completely new. Fortunately, it worked out, and it all came full circle because I was eventually able to start the jerky company here in America. Like you said, all from this passion and really curiosity when it comes to cooking steak and cooking meat. I feel like passion is a very loaded word. Like, what is passion? You know, it's hard to find that for a lot of people. So for me, it was following the curiosity, which eventually became passion.
So you do all of this, and then you got to make videos and put it out there as well about what you're passionate about and what you're doing. I often find that when I talk to creators, there's a mistake or something that went wrong or something like, oh my God, this is going to be terrible, and it ends up taking off. Was there sort of a breakthrough moment like that for you guys that said, that took me from being down here to all the way up here? And I guess, Nick, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think the reason it often catches creators by surprise when they have their first video go viral is the idea that if you knew how to make the videos go viral already, then you'd already be used to it and you'd already be doing it, right? And so that first one that hits, it's sort of a shock, right? Because you don't know that that's going to happen when you open the app and all of a sudden there's a ton of notifications there. And for me, it was I taught people how to make chocolate from a cacao pod, which is the fruit that makes chocolate.
I remember that.
Yeah,
good video.
It was a great video. The filming wasn't great, the editing wasn't the best, but the idea was there. And I remember I went into some appointment and I came out and I looked at my phone and it said 1.8 M. And I kind of stepped back and I didn't recognize the M because usually it was just, 700 or maybe 700, maybe 12 views, right? And so I was shocked. But I think I did it and I made that video because it was something that I was really excited about and I was kind of passionate about. And I myself, before that, didn't know that chocolate came from a fruit. So when I shared that with the world, people seemed to like it, and that's where it all started.
So how did you feel, though, when you saw that M and you're like, oh my God, my next video, I really got to step it up? Was it that sort of a stress that kind of seeped into your brain?
It was the opposite. It was literally the next morning waking up, and I might have gone to the fish market and bought a giant tuna or something crazy that I thought of that night before, because I was just excited. I was filled with nothing but excitement. And I think after that, every single day for probably a full year, I filmed at least a video.
Oh, that's awesome. Max, what about you?
Yeah, for me, it took a while to find my niche, especially with short form. We've kind of evolved into more longer format stuff, which is different. Maybe we'll talk about that later. Yep. But for the first few weeks of posting, we were really just throwing everything at the wall. I mean, we were doing skits, we were doing food content, we were doing little mukbangs, and eventually what hit for us was just really outlandish, crazy recipes. So things I would kind of come up with in my head, had no idea if they would work practically, but we'd give them a shot. Me and my sister right there, Sophia, who's watching, she was taking a video, now she stopped. And we found out that that's what worked for us. So just really outlandish stuff seemed to work the best, and that's what we ran with for the first probably 2 years.
Yeah, I think that's the way it usually goes.
Yeah. Talk about your early influences. Was it a chef? Was it a creator? Was it a storyteller? What sort of got you that creative spark?
Yeah, I mean, I bet a lot of people in this room can relate to this, but for me, it was all family. It was watching my grandparents cook, watching especially my grandma on my dad's side, who was really, really talented in the kitchen, would make these 5, 6, 7 course meals for 30, 40, 50 people, if you can believe it, for the holidays. And I watched that happen, and I was like, I kind of want to be a part of that. And so I remember being not even tall enough to look over the 36-inch kitchen counter, and trying to peek up and like grab things and smell things and see things, right? And for me, those are the core memories of why I fell in love with food.
Cool, Max, what about you? What were those sort of inspirations?
For me, it was family too, but for a very different reason. Mom and Dad, I absolutely love you guys to death. We're not the best chefs. Did not really cook too much, but I love to eat. And I kind of realized, you know what, this is something that I really, really, really love. I want to learn more about it. Unfortunately, I didn't get too much from them. I will say my dad was incredibly creative in the kitchen. He still is. They know. I mean, he will make the craziest things. 2 out of 10 times, it's incredible. 8 out of 10 times, it's more questionable. But yeah, it was family. Also other creators. I mean, even to this day, like Nick will post something I get highly inspired from. Plenty of other people as well.
Let's move and talk a little bit about storytelling, your creative process, and how that evolved as you guys evolved as creators. First of all, how do you find a story in something as simple as a steak or an egg or something like that? How do you go out and find a story that's going to captivate? Nick?
I mean, I'll give you a simple example. I was walking around yesterday for a quick day trip in Hong Kong with Max, and we passed by this place that had tons and tons of, just imagine, one stick of salami that you might buy from the grocery store, and then just imagine 1,000 of those just hanging in some place. And
on the rafters.
It was crazy.
Wild.
It was crazy. And we walked in there, and right away I knew, okay, Max should make this video, not me, because I'm not the meat guy, right? So we went in, and that was just a moment where right away I think we looked at each other and realized this is something that's really special, and if we think this is cool, then hopefully a lot of people out there will think this is cool. So the cool thing about food is you can find or create a story with food anywhere in the world, and without even saying anything most of the time, you can tell that story and people can relate to it.
Nick, what about you?
Max.
I'm sorry.
No worries. No worries.
I knew I was going to do that.
We look very similar.
It's a little unfair.
Yeah. Max the meat guy, what about you?
Sorry.
It's been a long couple days.
I totally get it.
Although I want to see what you do with that salami, but go ahead.
You will very soon. We're currently editing it. That's a really good example, Nick. And I actually learned so much on this trip about how to take advantage and leverage the location you're in, because there's so much magic on the streets. And like for food, of course, everybody knows when you travel, there's incredible things to create stories around. But I think if you're a creator listening to this and you're outside of the food world, you can absolutely do that too. Like there was a fitness guy up here earlier, and I was thinking like, if you go to any park in Asia, there's these really cool, like crazy, like different workout equipment things that you'll never see in America. I would love to see a workout influencer do a crazy workout on a local gym, essentially. So like you can definitely find crazy inspiration from outside. I think it becomes maybe a little more difficult and requires more thought when you create stories inside of the kitchen or inside of the studio, depending on who you are and what type of content you create. But at least for steak, to me, I'm highly inspired by steak. I think there's no such thing as a perfect steak ever. I don't think I'll ever create one. I don't think he's ever made. I mean, he's made some decent steaks, but not perfect.
It's true.
So like this,
many would say better than a lot of the steaks that you make.
Definitely some. not
what I would
many
say,
people here.
What I would say I've realized, especially with travel, and I'm sure we'll get to that a little bit, but when you combine food and then you combine travel, you could live a million lifetimes and never get through every single little story of food or how someone cooks something. Or that's the best part about it. Honestly, is just that there's so much there, and the creativity really never runs out.
Have you guys done anything with durian? Have you ever done anything with a durian? Yeah.
Yes.
I want to see stories about durian. That was the freakiest thing when I got to Singapore. I'm like, what is that smell, and how can it taste so good and smell so bad?
I actually had a very wild experience with it recently where I had, the way I describe durian to anyone that hasn't smelled or tasted it is it smells like a hot garbage everything bagel. That's how I describe durian. I feel like it's a very
Garbage?
I've thought a lot about that description.
What do you mean garbage?
Like the smell of warm garbage,
Yeah.
right? And then combine that with everything bagel. It's kind of this whole. I tried to think for a while when I posted my first video with durian because I was like, how do I describe this to somebody? And then that's what I put together. But I had an experience recently in Malaysia where I was trying 4 or 5 different types of durian, and I didn't even want to taste it. And then the person that was with me, this guide, said, just give it a shot. And I sort of thought, I'm here. I'm in Malaysia. I'm eating. When am I going to be in Malaysia eating durian again? And I tried one, and it was sort of okay. And then I was like, it's not worth it. This is just not going to change. And then I tried the second one, and I cannot act. Like, I don't know about you. I can't act. These videos are just me, and whatever happens, happens, and I can't do a retake of a reaction of something. And all of a sudden, I had this weird, something flipped in my mind, and whatever I was tasting was one of the best things I've ever tasted in my life. So I don't know what happened there, but now I'm a big fan of durian.
It's wild, right?
It was weird.
And I discovered durian in like Breath of the Wild from Zelda, and I'm like, oh, that can't be a real fruit. And then I got to Singapore, I'm like, oh, it is.
It's real.
It's the weirdest fruit ever. What's your favorite cut of steak? Do you have one?
I mean, I get that question a lot.
Do you? Sorry, but I'm hungry and I want to know because I want to go home and make it.
It's a very good question. The obvious answer is like you can't go wrong with a ribeye. I think a lot of people know that. It's rich, it's fatty, it has the cap over the top, which is almost like a braised cut of meat with the eye, which is still lean and tender. So a lot of variation on that cut, which I really love. My personal favorite right now, because it's always evolving, is the outside skirt steak. So a lot of people hear about skirt steak. What they don't know is there's actually 2 types of skirt steak. So if you're ever at the butcher counter and you're considering it, be sure to ask for the outside. They'll typically sell it as the same cut. The way I remember it is outdoor grilling is more fun than indoor cooking. So outside skirt steak is better. It is 10 times better, and it's typically the same price. So that's my little tip.
That's good. I like that. I'm going to go back to the butcher store and do that. You both do education and entertainment together. You sort of mix that. How do you figure out what that balance is, and when do you go too far over the line one way or the other? How do you pull yourself back? And I'm going to start with you, Max, this time. How do you do that? How do you think about that balance?
Yeah, I think it starts with just having a strong value set of what your content is. It can be very easy to look at people call it the Mr. Beastification of YouTube and be like, look, I want to make this as outrageous as possible and really optimize for views and clicks and likes. And it's easy to do. I think we've all succumbed to that a little bit. But if you have a strong value set, like for us, every video must be at least a little educational, at least a little bit. So yes, we might be doing something a little more crazy, like as we progress on YouTube, you're incentivized to start getting a little more crazy with it. But we make sure that even if we're doing that, we keep things educational. I also, you might talk about this, but I really respect what Nick's done with his second channel as a way to maintain, like he can do a lot because he has that sort of leverage. We stick to one channel, but again, it's maintaining that core value of it's going to be educational. And I think the viewers really appreciate that.
What about you, Nick?
I mean, I'll use what Max says as a perfect transition to what I was going to say, which is we try to take in the feedback of the viewers all the time, right? You want to find that perfect balance, like anything in life, of okay, what are people enjoying? What am I going to actually enjoy going into the kitchen? What is my team going to enjoy working on so that we can do it every day without burning out? And pull all that together and find that one little point in the middle where everything lines up. And so we sort of realized recently that if we created a second channel, which is no crazy new idea. There's plenty of people with multiple channels on YouTube, but we thought, we took a step back and we looked at we call it our main primary channel, and we realized that we've kind of shifted now into what we call food entertainment. And food entertainment is, I'll give you a few examples of that. A couple titles of our recent videos is I cooked gourmet food for a lion or different animals, right? And so I literally traveled the entire world and I cooked gourmet food for every animal you can think of. It was awesome.
Every animal.
By the way,
Crazy video.
penguins, it was a big letdown because penguins have always been my favorite and they weren't that cool in person, I thought. So that was it was just sort of a bird.
It's just sort of a bird.
It's a bit of a bummer for me. But
Wombats?
else,
Did you do wombats?
no wombats, but we had sloths, we had lion, we had a bear, we had we went through the whole list. And what else? I mean, any video that you find on our main channel is we call it food entertainment now. And there is cooking involved in a lot of them, but a lot of them are also kind of, it might involve some travel and eating at different restaurants instead of doing any cooking. And we realized that if we kind of drew a line down the middle and created a new channel, which we call Nick's Kitchen, then we could keep that food entertainment and those videos that get those really, those crazy high views sometimes that appeal to a wider audience. And then on the other channel, Nick's Kitchen, we could do simple home cooking videos and nothing crazy. It's just I go into the kitchen and I make a lasagna or I make pizza or I show you how to make sushi at home. And so, like Max said, we've split them into two things now. And it's been a lot easier for us to be able to cater to everybody out there that wants something, whether you want to be more serious in the kitchen and actually sort of sit there and learn something or, see me do something crazy like feed a lion.
Feed a lion. So you guys are both out here traveling, do food content, travel. I want to talk about that because you brought it up. How does travel help with what you're doing, and how do you think about those two genres coming together? Max, you want to take that first?
Sure. When I think about creating content in the studio, in our kitchen, I think of the word control. We have 100% control over the sound, the lighting. It's all blacked out, so it could be 2 a.m., it could be 2 p.m., and everything is always consistent. Like, there's no crazy AC running. Like, it just sound, visuals, time. We have unlimited time. Lighting, it's all perfect. When you go out in the world, and this can apply to any genre of content, you have a complete lack of control. That's what I've learned on this trip, actually, because this is one of the first times I've really explored travel content. I mean, just the streets of Hong Kong, there's kids running around, there's crazy sounds, you're getting hit by a scooter, the lighting's changing, all of a sudden it's raining, a complete lack of control. But there's also a lot of magic that you would never get in the kitchen by getting out there. So planning is super important. That's something that we're definitely taking away from this trip. And then just making sure to capture the moments that are special. The example Nick gave is perfect. Nick does a lot of travel content. He saw that crazy sausage emporium store, and he was like, Max, you got to make a video. Normally, I would pass by that and just be like, take one picture, looks cool, gone. We went in there, talked to the guy, asked him if it was okay, did a full video, and that's an extra piece of content.
I mean, he was still doing the calculations on an abacus, one of those little things with the beads. So showing something like that is cool. I've never seen that in my life. I've never seen that. And we know, we can say with high confidence that showing that video of some guy with a salami meat store who is selling it to you and then doing the calculations on an abacus with beads, that's interesting. That's what content is.
Yeah. We would never get that in our studio.
Yeah.
And yes, the lighting wasn't perfect in there. The audio probably isn't great, but we were able to leverage that really magical moment. So it's definitely a balance.
I love the way you two pushed each other on that one. That's amazing.
Well, it's really
The
pushed
collab
me,
is really cool.
Yeah.
It's incredible. One really cool thing that comes to mind for me when it comes to food and travel is some of the best bites in the world that I've ever had actually came from somebody that we didn't understand each other's language, which is really cool, right? If you really sit there and think about that, right? I was in Ecuador once and we were going through a cacao farm, and this really tiny, cute older woman comes up, walking up slowly to me, and she has this little, it was called humitas. It's this sort of steamed, I hope I'm describing it in the right way, but it was a steamed, basically like a steamed corn cake type thing with I believe it had a piece of cheese in the middle of it. And she handed it over to me in the corn husk, and I unwrapped it, and took a bite. I think she worked on the farm. The funny thing is, I didn't really honestly know, like, I don't know why she gave it to me. It was a very, like, it was a crazy, I was touring the farm, and she just kind of walked up and handed it. And I
So
just,
trusting. Here,
yeah,
eat this.
against everything you learn when you're growing up, I just took it and I just ate it. And it was one of the best bites I've ever had. It was the most incredible corn-flavored food I've ever had. And I have a little notes document on my phone that I write down the best bites I've ever had. Actually, the durian went on that list too. It's a pretty short list, and that went on there. And so, but we didn't know, we couldn't have spoken a single word to each other. And so I think that's such a good example of what you can get when traveling with food. It shows how amazing and how international food can be.
And it's great because you can bring that back to your fans and kind of expose them to this world that they may never see, but you can really bring it to life, which is fascinating.
Yeah.
And food does that. I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about the business side of what you guys do. You're both entrepreneurs, you're both running businesses. When did you first realize that, yeah, maybe it's not just being a creator, maybe I'm a startup CEO and I'm building this big business? Max, what about you? I mean, you already came into it thinking, I want to do jerky, I want to make jerky, but when did you realize that there's actually a real business here and you're building a business?
Yeah, like you said, I realized, or I knew that I was going to do this. I was going to start a jerky company. I didn't realize how different running a CPG brand and operating a content business is. They run parallel because without the content, you can't really sell the product, at least for our product, that's the way it works. They're very, very distinct things, and I'd say that I lean heavier on the content, on the skill side of content rather than being an operator for a CPG brand or really any brand in general. So what's been absolutely game changer for me is ensuring the team is there, right? So lofty goals, I want to start this, I want to do that, sound great, but if you don't have a good team, it's nothing. So like being able to bring in family, friends, I know Nick has a similar experience. He's brought in very close people to him and he's built out a pretty great team. Ours is a lot smaller, but we make it work and it's all because of the team. So yeah, that's what comes to mind.
What about you, Nick, when you realized, hey, I'm a CEO?
Yeah, I mean, I'll actually say the same thing that Max said because I think it's very important, which is that, and I'm sure all of us in this room know this, but nothing will happen without a fantastic team around you. And so, I mean, some of my team is sitting in the room with us here, but some of my biggest mistakes early on, in fact, maybe my biggest mistake was actually trying to start a business. I would say even a second business, right? Because YouTube itself is already a business. It already becomes a business whether you want it to or not. The second you have more than just you there filming by yourself, it's a business. You're paying somebody, you're there with the team, and it becomes a business, right? And so I tried to then start another one on top of that. And early on with Osmo, which is our kitchen essentials, right now it's a lot of salts and seasonings brand, I was spread much too thin and I didn't have the right team in place. That was the problem. That was the missing piece. And I bit off a little more than I could chew there. And so I think that just goes to show, you know, once you bring those right people in and fill in all the gaps and find people that are as passionate about this as you are, that's when things can start going much better. So now we're in a really great place. We're in thousands and thousands of Walmarts in the US and it's been a lot of fun seeing this get into the hands of people in their kitchens at home, which is why we started this in the first place. But I mean, my whole goal, I should back up and say, is really ultimately to inspire the next generation of young home cooks. And so this all kind of builds towards that. And having a team in place now, it feels a lot better. We're still learning every day. We're still growing every day. We're making mistakes. We're not perfect, but it's the team is the only thing you really need, and then the rest falls into place.
Did you find you had to turn that team over a bunch of times to get the right people?
Maybe not as much as you or I might have thought, but yes, I mean, not everyone's going to work out the first time, and you just kind of learn that as you go. So I have learned a ton. I almost went to business school after college. I wanted to go to business school my whole life, and then I applied, I got in, and I never went because I'm kind of in business school right now.
You're going to business school right now. I went to business school. You're building a business. That's going to give you everything you need to know.
Yeah.
Max, what about you in building your team? You can't fire your sister, but talk about how you built your team and what that was like.
It's just luck, honestly. Having an amazing sister and amazing brother and just close friends, I got very, very lucky. Having people that I can lean on and outsource to. I think it doesn't, you always hear like, don't go into business with friends and family. That's all I've ever done. Before this, I was working in the financial industry. We had a startup. My brother and I were in Shanghai amazing brother, amazing sister, and it's critical. So
Amazing friends.
yeah.
Pretty good. Good buds. Okay, we have about a couple seconds left. Can you each give me one tip for food creators or storytellers that want to build in that food travel space? Focus on food, but you can stretch it out if you want, particularly you on the travel side. I am going to go, Nick, to you first.
Yeah, I'm going to give the advice that I give to everybody, which is the advice that my mom gave me growing up, which I love more than anything, which is that everything happens for a reason. So if you keep that in mind, no matter what you're working on or what you're doing, I think that's the only thing you really ever need to know. And I think it applies to everything, which is why I'm not being specific to food.
Max?
I'd say patience, like on all fronts. Your first brand deals, try to say no as long as possible. The reward will come, the opportunities will follow. Just try to be patient, play the long game.
Awesome, you guys. This was great. Give it up for these guys, for Nick, for Max. We could sit here and talk all day. They've got so many great stories and great insight on how to build food, how to build travel, how to build friendship, how to build businesses, but that's all we have time for. So thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.
It was awesome.